Hello, everybody, and welcome to the moment you've all been waiting for. It is another Survivor New York finale podcast. I'm Naomi. That doesn't matter. Today we have with us not only he just had a birthday, Virgo King, right?
Oh my
It's Chris
God.
Lord. How are you?
I'm good. I'm 31 and feeling old.
You don't
That's
look
so
a day
true.
over 30. Well, Chris, we are joined, first of all, by another iconic fake Survivor host. I mean, you call it fake Survivor, but the emotions are real. It's Cooper from
Yes.
Survivor Michigan. Cooper, how are you?
Yay.
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on.
Long time no see. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited we're back. This is, first of all, an insane season to talk about. And I don't know how much you knew beforehand or afterwards, but we're going to get into all of it. But we have to introduce, she's the woman of the hour. It is Sarah. Honestly, I would say, like, I don't want to say the Dominic to Paddock's Wendell, but I would say one of the best Survivor New York players we've had. Sarah, how are you?
Oh, that is so nice. I'm good. For the people listening, I do have COVID right now, so my voice is a little off, but I'm doing well, and I'm really happy to be here. I've been very bored, stuck by myself, so I'm really excited to guys. It's been so fun. I've listened to all of the podcasts. They're so fun. I really like talking about them. So.
Yeah, some people call you a cheater, but we call you one of our favorites.
That's okay.
We'll get into all of that. But first, Sarah, I want to talk to you about, like, what made you play Survivor New York. That's the first question. After I was so mean to you at Survivor Buffalo, why did you decide to come hang out with me again?
I didn't leave that season thinking you were mean to me, for one, but yeah, I mean, so my first ever game was Survivor Michigan, and obviously that didn't go well for me. I got voted out first. But, like, I literally had so much fun in that, like, it was a week since the games are a semester long. So I had, like, a week of playing Survivor, and it was so much fun, so emotionally devastating, but so fun that I figured, like, it would be so much fun to play again and go further, and how much more fun would I have if I went further. So, I mean, I really wasn't discouraged by that. I feel like I just wanted to do it again. And it was Sarah from Survivor Buffalo that reached out to a couple people from Survivor Michigan and asked if we wanted to play Survivor Buffalo, which is how I heard about LRGs, and had so much fun in that one. So at that point, I was applying to any game that I'd ever heard of. And Survivor New York is next.
Yeah. So, Cooper, I remember when I sort of saw Sarah and then I knew Sarah was on Michigan, I was surprised that she came back. Now, Cooper, am I wrong? You voted Sarah out, like, very harshly, I would say. So can you be nice to her and to repent for your sins?
Of course. Sarah and I are on great terms now.
Yeah, we're past that.
Thankfully, we got over it. But yes, I did vote her out.
And what did you think seeing, like, not only Sarah but Paddock come back to, like, play a different game? I feel like there is something really fun about watching players from college drivers go on and play other games. What did you think about seeing two people from your seasons on this game?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I knew they were both very, very good players, right? Like, I played with Sarah, and, like, realistically, there was no real reason why she should have been the first one out there. And then I, like, hosted Paddock. So I knew they were both very good players, and I was super excited to watch them on the season. And then obviously they both did all right. So yeah, it was bizarre to kind of see them playing the same season, though. Just in the sense that, like, I view everything and, like, oh, these are the people that played Survivor Michigan season 1 and 2 and 3, and they're all in their own separate boxes. So when those boxes mix, it's kind of interesting for me. But yeah, it was super fun to watch them.
Yeah, I crazy to see two people from Survivor Michigan playing the same season. And we'll never definitely ever see that again. Chris, I want to talk to you about casting Sarah. Like, I had already met Sarah. Shout out to Survivor Buffalo, yes. But what did you think?
Well, I mean, I think initially, since you had played with her, it was like a really good push from you that kind of sold me on her right from the beginning. And I think that she's the total package for, I think, a lot of reasons. And we saw that throughout the season. I mean, I've seen Sarah play a few games now. I've seen her play Buffalo, Survivor Pennsylvania, doubt Survivor New York. She is smart. She's tactical. I am still so shocked that she was voted out first of Survivor Michigan. I have not seen it, and it kind of saddens me to watch it to know that she'd be voted out first because I just don't believe it. Like that's how good of a player I know she is. So I just can't even fathom that that's a reality in some worlds, you know.
Mhm.
But
Well, it
that's
kind of
that's the
reminds.
reason.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like some people get voted out first and they take it really hard and they never want to play again. But I think Sarah, for you, it just goes to show that like you just got to keep trying and like having fun, and along the way you will find your success if you just keep sort of looking for the spirit of the game, which is let's play Survivor. This is all fun and games. Sarah,
Yeah.
how
I
does
mean,
it feel? Yeah, like to just go from those sort of ends of the spectrum.
yeah, I mean, looking back, there obviously is a certain amount of luck in any game of Survivor, so anything is possible in any season. But I mean, looking back, I totally know what mistakes I made in Survivor Michigan that made me be the first person out. So I have become a better Survivor player as I went along, and I really think that's something to do with like this veterans versus contenders theme of Survivor New York because I had so much experience. I got out bad mistakes early on in other games. So it's really like a learning experience too. You think you're gonna go in and play a certain way, but until you actually like do it, and I'm sure it's real as well, you have no idea how you're gonna act, behave.
So, Cooper, I forget. Did you know how the season ended already? I feel like you must have known, and we talked about it, but I can't remember exactly.
I did, yeah. I mean, I talked to the two of them enough, Emily and Sarah, that like I did hear that they may have gotten first and second. So
Yeah.
I did watch the season knowing that, but that was still very interesting
Yeah.
to see how it all happened.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna ask you, like, when you're watching this road and you see how many sort of bumps are in the way, I feel like you would have probably been questioning yourself, like, did I really get the right spoilers? Like, how did they make the end? What was that like for you watching this season, knowing how it ends?
It was weird because Paddock was in such a weird spot at the merge of kind of like she was kind of between the two groups and everything. And then obviously all of her orange people go out kind of early, and then she's like the last orange left for a long time. So that was interesting, but I did kind of see once they picked that side, I was like, how is this going to happen where they end up kind of being the last two there? And I was like, it seems like the only real way is for them to just kind of pick off all the other side and then just like pick off all the quote unquote like threats from their own side. So I was wondering if that was kind of how it was actually going to play out, or if there was going to be some more twists and turns. But for the most part, that kind of is how it played out. Really, was they just like wiped out the other side, and then that group that was the non-threats all just kind of came together and just started then picking off the people. So it was very interesting to watch happen.
As Bennett calls them, the misfit toys.
Yeah.
Cooper, I have a hard hitting question. If you were on that jury, would you have voted for Sarah or would you have voted for Paddock? And don't say Sarah just because she's here. Like, she won't be offended. I know she won't. If you had to say.
Well, see, I also know I can see Emily's in the chat too, so they're both here. Really,
True.
Truthfully, when I host these things, I like for people to give answers, so I will answer it. I'm gonna actually say I would have voted for Emily just because that is the game that I like to play more. She was like idols, advantages. She was the one kind of just flipping and flopping in the middle for a little bit, and being a little more out there. And I'm not saying that's better or worse in terms of game style at all, but that's the game that I really enjoy watching. So if I was on the jury, that's probably what I would have done. But that is not to say in any world that Sarah played a bad game. And I actually, before we came on, was telling Naomi that I think Sarah maybe should have won, but that's a whole different story.
Sarah was robbed. My new podcast coming soon. No, I have to say, Sarah, that like the amount of messages I got from people saying it was a tie, but like it was deserved. Like there were so many people who were watching the season who were like, I can't believe it was a tie because that's exactly what I wanted. I don't know if you saw any of that. There's some YouTube comments and stuff like that. What did you think about that reaction?
I didn't really look at the comments or anything, but I really appreciate that.
We have very pleasant fans, I have to say.
I really appreciate that. I mean, I think it's so funny because like my headspace was very strange during that last tribal council, or like right before voting out Emily or Andrea. And like if I were on that jury as me, I would have voted for Emily. That was the game that I admired more at the time when I was watching it. So I did not go into that final tribal expecting to win. I was hoping to win, obviously, but I didn't go into it expecting to win. And I think it took like literally watching it back to be like, okay, I was like, and like kind of getting more perspective. This is also a weird aside, but I feel like watching Big Brother has made me appreciate social game a lot more than I had previously, and like smaller moves, just because it's such a long game. So I feel like maybe like now I would have voted for me, but at the time I would have voted for Emily.
Interesting. I mean, look, I always say 0 votes against is a huge accomplishment. And Davey makes.
I didn't even say that at Final Tribal. I don't think that didn't even.
Sarah. I know. I was like, oh my god. Okay, Sarah, you've got such a keen eye when assessing a group of people or a challenge, and are very strong. I have to say, I totally agree with Davey. Davey, one of the votes for you. This whole season, I think we watch these pairs sort of fail one after the other, and you and Emily are the pair that sort of succeeds. But there's that great split at Final Four, and we're going to talk about it later, but like let's talk about the early game, because this is a really fascinating thing, I think, because you start off where you're basically 4 out of 6, I would say, right? It's Kira, and then if you lose again, it's Jack, and then if you lose again, it's you. But you kind of knew that also. So can you talk to me about being on Pink in that early game and like what was going on for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I really enjoyed everyone on Pink. Like, everyone is such a nice person, and we did all get along really well. But just something in me, it's not even really that Emily, Davey, and Alejandra were like talking together a lot. It just was really in me that they were like kind of the decision makers of the tribe. You know, I don't remember really what my preferences between Jack and Kira was at first vote. I like don't know if I said it in the show. I don't remember, but yeah, it was just something that was telling me that the 3 of them were working together more closely. They were more talkative with each other. I take longer, I think, to connect with people than the 3 of them did to connect with each other. I also wasn't like from New York, and there were a lot of people from New York that had more things in common. So I was just feeling a little bit on the outs, I think, in the early. And then especially actually when we tribe swapped and me and Jack were on that, were we orange?
Yes, I believe you were.
Yeah, so on that tribe swap as well, I even felt like very on the outs in that tribe. So yeah, it was like I knew I would have to play like the underdog non-threat from a very early point in the game.
Also, Kyle wants to make a Final Four with you if you're interested. Let him know.
Yes, Kyle.
Cooper, I'm wondering if you have any highlights from the pre-merge that you want to talk about, because I think this is a hilarious road for both Paddock and Sarah. Sarah kind of chilling until she has to go to tribal council once after the swap, and then like Paddock just going through the absolute ringer of things. What did you think watching this all go down?
I think my favorite 2 tribals pre-merge were the ones with all the idols, honestly. So you had like Paddock, and oh my god, I'm blanking on his name.
Dresden.
Thank you. Both play their idols there. That was a really fun tribal, just kind of knowing that was probably what was going to happen. And then the next tribal with like the 2 groups of 4 all going, and Paddock having her double vote there. Those were 2 very just kind of interesting tribals to kind of watch. Especially having all of it go down where all the 8 of them were there, kind of having everything go down at tribal, and them not really being able to talk or strategize about the vote until they really got there. So yeah, those were definitely my 2 favorite tribals. And yeah, like you said, I think Sarah had a little bit of a smoother path to the merge. But yeah.
Well, I also think that, like, Sarah, for you and Chris, I want to know if you agree with this. that kind of sets you up to be like everybody's favorite because you haven't dogged anybody over. You've worked with these people, and then feasibly you tried to vote out Kyle, but you worked with Davey and Alejandro. Like, everybody thinks that you're still working with them. Chris, would you say that's accurate? Like, everybody just loves Sarah when we get to the Burge?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I said it in the last podcast. Like Davey pretty much had the game at the merge, but Sarah was right after Davey. I think as soon as Davey was out, it was like Sarah's game to win, and all Sarah had to do was vote Paddock out. That's all she had to do.
We get it. We understand.
We get it.
I'm sorry. I do want to ask Sarah though.
I did not understand the assignment.
It's okay. It's okay. It's life. So in the early part of the game, really, working with your edit, the only thing I had to really go off with you was a lot of your confessionals were based around Emily F. And that she was kind of like a bossy person. She was a veteran who really wanted to put her foot down and tell you guys the lay of the land of how these things, roll out. So how was that experience like being on a tribe with somebody like Emily and working with her for the first few rounds?
Yeah, I think because in the only other like LRG I'd played, there was no one that I knew. There were people who had played other games before, but if they had, they were hiding it. And so it was like just very much a different vibe. And Emily was so open with like all of her experience and what we should do in each challenge, which I feel like probably did help us. But for someone who was already, I think it was like the pressure of feeling like I was on the bottom of the tribe as well. And just like, I just was getting out my feelings to the camera, really. And those were my feelings in the moment. I have nothing against Emily F, but I think just her personality in the moment with mine didn't match, especially since maybe I felt like I was being quiet and she was kind of the opposite of that. And I really wanted to make a fake idol. I don't know why. I made one in Survivor Buffalo and I liked it, and I wanted to make another one. And I was like, no. So
God, shout out to the victim of that idol, which would be Jared, that fake idol. I remember it well. Well, okay, so Cooper, one question that I have for you is like, I feel like Sarah always comes across as very nice, and I feel like it's so fun to watch Sarah be a little more antagonistic. Did you enjoy this part as well? Because like this was Confessional Queen Sarah. I was laughing my ass off every episode. Is this like, did you expect this from Sarah?
No, I didn't expect that at all. But I was kind of glad to see that she at least has this side of her. She's too nice for me. Too nice. No, but. No, it was. I think it was a good read, right? Like Emily F. like kind of was the person that was controlling a lot of that tribe, and so I think Sarah being like, oh, she's like even portraying it as like bossy. It was really just like she was the one making all of the decisions, right? And that just like was the truth. And so I think that is a strength of Sarah's game, is to very much be like, this is what's happening. She has a very good perception of what is going on and what the dynamics are of the tribe, which allows you to make good decisions. Like she obviously was for the whole game, questionably until the final four. But I think that's a huge strength of her game, is to, and another thing is not saying it to anybody that's going to get her in trouble, right? Like being like, oh, Emily's coming off like this, I want to go after Emily at some point, like keeping that to herself, saying it, getting it out in the confessionals, but not letting anyone who's going to try to protect Emily know that that's where you're even thinking about it.
Yes, I would say a worse player would kind of show the disdain on their face, or they would tell Jack, like, hey, let's target Emily. And then, maybe the target shifts from Jack to you if that rumor gets out there. And I think that, Sarah, you did a great job of being really sort of like calm and collected with every single person. And I do think it's why you and Jack work together so well, is because you're always very trusted. And there's no reason to doubt how you're going to behave, because you're very sort of calm and collected. And that kind of brings me to like, I want to talk about the early you and Jack getting together and being friends. Yeah. What was that like? Because I think you were originally targeting Jack, right? At the first vote?
Listen, I don't remember. What I did the first vote. I think, yes, from the edit, it looks like I was talking to Kira more than Jack, and I feel like that was probably accurate. I think that's what was happening. But when Kira left and when the tribe swapped and I was on a tribe with Jack, I don't even know if Jack and I ever had a conversation that was like, yes, we're absolutely sticking together. And I think that was like a bad decision on I was thinking that internally, but I don't know that we had that conversation. That was probably a mistake. It didn't end up really meaning anything, maybe, but yeah, as soon as we tribe swapped, I mean, I just like that's kind of how I view Survivor in that sense of like you stick to your tribe, at least, you know, in the like pre-merge. So when Bennett suggested voting out Jack, I was like, I couldn't fathom someone doing that to their tribe member at that point, right at the swap. That was when we were walking away from the swap that Bennett suggested Jack, like 2 seconds into the new tribe. So that was what that was my like, that was just my initial impression of Bennett. I don't think we talked at all the first night, like night 0. So yeah, and Jack and I just like, we were always on the same wavelength. People said that Jack was kind of following in my footsteps. I knew that that was the perception, and that was obviously good for me. So I didn't change that. But I mean, I never said anything that he wasn't already thinking, as far as I know. Like, we were on the same page.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. Like, I think everything you said is so interesting, and then the fact that like it's very rare in like Survivor to play the entirety of a game with one other person. And what makes it so interesting is that you played the entire game with Jack. You really spent 2 days with him, and he held the most powerful decision in the game to vote for the winner, and he didn't choose you. Um, do you think about that? Like why he didn't do that? Like when he had that vote and that power, did you think it was a slam dunk for you? I've always wanted to know that.
This is the question that I would never ask.
No, I know. I don't mind the question at all. I think after the game, I thought about that all the time. And no, like if we had such a solid relationship the entire 2 games, I would have thought it was a slam dunk. But I have realized in these games that I don't necessarily take the time to make personal relationships with people and talk about things outside the game. And Jack had said post game that he voted for Emily because even though we had spent the whole game together, he felt closer to Emily. So in that initial post game reaction, he didn't say Emily played the better game. He said, I felt closer to Emily. So I feel like that is, I mean, it's totally fine if he did feel closer, if he did think she played a better game. It was just kind of eye-opening for me, and that I really need to, you know, when you play these games, the social game is important, and not only like the social strategic game, but the like just ask people about their life. I couldn't tell you whether Jack had siblings or not. Like I didn't, you know, I think it was more that than anything else.
To be fair, I've known Jack for years and I couldn't tell you if he has siblings.
I think that brings up a really good point. It's like you have 2 days. You have to decide what's more important to you in this game. Is like, can you make social connections, but can you also, you know, keep up with the fast-paced nature of everything? And you know, you have to really utilize that downtime as much as possible. But I assume early Pink really was more about like what you guys can do, your strengths and challenges, and strategizing for challenges and such like that. So I can understand it being really hard. I think when you play a 3, 4, 5, or a semester long game, it's like totally different for sure. And I think if that was the case, maybe you would have gotten his vote. It was just too short of a time period, I think.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't know. We'll have to ask Jack what he thinks, but
we'll get there. We're all a little bit busy. Well, Cooper, I want to ask you, Chris, you have a great point of like the 2-day game versus the really sort of long-term game. And Cooper, I don't know if you have any observations about like you get to watch all these seasons play out where like relationships are developing and taking a lot of time. Do you think that I don't know? I'm just like I would love to hear you pontificate more on like the length of the game and how that really affects like the decision making in the end, whether to vote people out or keep them in or because I think it also really affects Sarah in that like you really want to protect your friend towards the end. And everyone talks about how Liska was Paddock's older sister, but I feel like in a way, Sarah, you were also her older sister. But I say that because like there was that friendship there that had been established months before that affected the end game. And I think, Cooper, you've probably seen a lot of that in your time with these Survivor Michigan games, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, the longer the game is, the more everybody kind of knows each other, the harder it is, obviously, to start voting people out. And especially towards the end, after you really get to know people, it just makes it even harder. So, yeah, I understand where Sarah was coming from in the final four of like, I just can't do this to Emily. I think in most kind of weekend games like this, if she's in the same situation where she hasn't known this person for months and months before even like playing the game, I think Sarah easily just cuts that person and is like, no, obviously I'm just going to go win. Like, why would I not? But yeah, it makes it a million times harder. And there are people who play like semester long games at colleges who come in and don't know each other. And by the end, they're just as good of friends as Sarah and Emily are here. And so, I mean, so any single relationship can end up like that. And it just makes the longer games so much harder, especially towards the end, to start cutting people you've been working with for the whole game, the whole semester.
Yeah, I would say spoilers for Survivor Michigan season 4, but very Shannon and Dale, I would say, in this instance. And that only means something to certain people. Also, I just want to say, Emily Paddock, I once brought you to work, so you are everybody's little sister.
Wait, really quickly with
Paddock. Oh, yeah.
No, you go.
No,
I was just going to say, in that game, that's literally what I felt about Emily. I was like protective over her for some reason. Like, I was really...
She does that to
I don't know. I don't know why.
It makes you feel like she's a baby.
Yeah, when she's not.
You just want to take care of her.
She is a grown-up, to be fair.
So in the final speeches that the final three did, Paddock, this was not in the final edit, she had thought that Sarah had caused the tie to keep her in the game to make them draw rocks. And Paddock says, I believe she said exactly like this, that Sarah chose working with Paddock in Survivor Michigan All-Stars over winning Survivor New York, because apparently they were both slated to play Survivor Michigan All-Stars. And Paddock had said that it was amazing that Sarah was willing to choose Survivor Michigan All-Stars over winning Survivor New York. And Paddock then said something like, oh, I'm here to play Survivor New York and I'm here to win Survivor New York. So I thought that part of your reason with sticking with Paddock, Sarah, knowing that you guys would be playing in an all-star game together?
Sorry, Cooper.
I'll jump in for 2 seconds, Sarah, because I know Naomi's dying laughing up in the corner there. They were both applying to All-Stars, I believe, at that point. Whether they played or not is TBD.
Okay, I'm just saying, I don't know anything.
You don't.
No, you're good. Okay, I wish that wasn't a part of it, but yes, that is an accurate read. That was my main reason. I had played 3 live games that summer, and so I was feeling, at that point, like I had done what I needed to do to win that game, and actually winning the game was not as important to me as making up for my first round exit the last time I played Survivor Michigan, to set up for if I potentially played All-Star, having a really, really solid ally who thought in her mind that I would not cut her no matter what. And I felt like that was a really good opportunity to say I would not cut her no matter what.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and so some people have, I think there's the emotional side of it. And I think on the other side of it, what you did do is you did flip back. And I've been saying this all week. What did the winner of Survivor New York 3 do, Gary? He flipped and made a tie at Final Four and then flipped back. And like that got him, I think, Mark's jury vote. I think Mark was always kind of going to vote for Gary, but like it's an effective strategy. And some people are like, I can't imagine taking that risk. I think it's a very valid risk, especially if you want to give that person the chance. And I could see when the rock draw happened, Sarah, you like freaked out. And I think in any other instance, like if Jack isn't immune or something, like it just goes down normally. But I think Jack got real immunity necklace happy and decided to just go for it. And just the looks on your faces were really like just something. But Sarah, I think your move is completely defensible, and anyone can fucking fight me about it. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think that is a very good point as far as jury votes. I think Emily being on the jury probably would have given me her jury vote in a different situation anyways, but that is it's a good point. And yes, I did not see that coming from Jack. I think I said something like, oh, I really hope Jack doesn't get freaked out and switch his vote. But I really did not think that was going to happen. I didn't think she would do that. So like, yeah, it was just pure shock on my face. And when you guys said that it was going to be rocks, there was no question in my mind that I was switching my vote and I was going to vote out Emily. So I thought that it would be easy from there.
Yeah, Cooper, what a surprise that was, huh? Like, we talk about this ending, and really, I knew that like this end was going to gag people. But Cooper, what did you think when this was all going down?
It's such a weird situation, knowing that you may shortly be playing another game with the same person. Like it's such a weird headspace to be in, because you're like, I'm in this game, like this is what I can control now, but do I want to make my decisions based on this game? Do I want to make my decisions based on some other game that like I also want to do well in? So it's such a weird spot to be in, on top of the already like scenario that we've talked about of them just being friends and not really wanting to vote each other out in the first place. So that's the core of Survivor. Like at a certain sense, you're gonna have to make these decisions about, do you play with your head or do you play with your heart? And I think Sarah was trying to play with both, as most people are. So her first decision might have been with her heart, and then all of a sudden she saw rocks and she was like, maybe I should start playing with my head because I don't really want to do that.
Get me out of here! Get me out of here! Yeah, this is one of my favorite photos from like all of Survivor New York. But I also like can't share it because I don't want to spoil too many people yet. But like, if you're here, you're here. This photo is so fucking funny. And I mean, it just like Sarah is gagged to death. Andre is like, I knew this would happen. Paddock is shocked. I mean, it's one of my favorite moments that we've ever had, because like you really wouldn't see this on Real Survivor, right? First of all, you wouldn't see the rock draw anymore, but you also wouldn't see Jack taking such a kind of wild opportunity. And I do think in a lot of ways this move loses Jack the game. I don't know if anybody agrees with me on that, but I think that
I do.
Jack making this wild card move when it's not really in his best interest is tough for him. We need to go back. We have talked about this far enough. We need to go back because we were talking about Bennett, and that clip is one of my favorite clips because Bennett, literally you're walking away from the swap and Bennett is like, hey, Sarah, you want to vote Jack out? Cooper, I'm wondering what you thought of just like this swap tribe. And also if you had any other favorite players that were people you didn't know from this season.
So I didn't know anybody besides Paddock and Sarah. But let's see, my other favorite players. I enjoyed Kyle. And I enjoyed TJ and Billy. I would say those are my next three favorites. I'll keep it there because I could do a whole list, but I will just stop there. What was your first question though?
Just what did you think of like Sarah in the swap? Because I think, and let's particularly focus on this 4-4 tribal council, because this is a great moment where Sarah calls it the fuck off tribe, and you guys get put on a tribe where you have nothing to do but be losers. And it's a really interesting dynamic. Sarah can go with her pink tribe. Sarah can go with the 4 that she's on. And Cooper, I'm wondering what you thought of like how Sarah played that situation. Because I would say some people in the audience disagree with how Sarah played it, but I'll address them in a second. But Cooper, what did you think?
I think they played it great, right? Like Emily knew she had a double vote, so she knew that they had the votes to basically win that tribe, right? But even if you survive and you take out the other side and then those two sides are butting heads going into merge, that's not really what you want. it's not really like you don't want to be kind of the two sides going into merge that are going to be at war. So I think telling the other side kind of what the vote is, even if it's going to end up poorly, it's something you almost have to do to set yourself up for the merge, because if you don't, you're going to lose 3 or 4 people who you could potentially work with. So there's just no incentive to lie to them about the vote. And if they happen to have an idol, like they have an idol, and in Sarah's case, they're not going to pick her, right? Like she's the one like being like, this is what the vote is. Like, I'm still working with you. And they come out of that tribe 7 strong, even though there really were 2 kind of fierce sides at that tribal. So I think everybody at that tribal played it fine. Your side was trying to win. You were trying to make sure that the people that you were coming into there and had made promises to were safe. But coming out of it, everyone kind of had a level head and was able to step back and be like, no, now this whole group needs to come back together and we need to stay strong. So the fact that 7 after a tribal that was kind of that divisive came back together, I think showed that how good of game players a lot of them were, in the sense that they were able to kind of reset and not just take a look at the one tribal that had just happened.
Yeah. Sarah, talk to me about the fuck off tribe.
Okay, so I feel like there's so much to say about this, but
yes, it's one of my favorite votes, I think, of Survivor New York, because there's just so many layers to it.
Yeah, there were genuinely so many layers. I had just left the mat. We had all just left. Everyone on my side me and Jack had left the mat vote. And Matt was not our intended target. Like, we were thinking Bennett the whole time. TJ and Billy had said, at one point that they were okay with doing Bennett. And when the vote was switched to Matt, that was like a red flag for me, because when I was looking at the game, it was pretty clear that I didn't know why they would want to keep Bennett other than as like a meat shield. So I feel like that dynamic was set up during that tribal council. They were okay cutting Matt, who was not really seen as a threat, but they weren't okay cutting Bennett or Kai. So leaving that tribal council, knowing that, and then kind of having it reaffirmed when Jack and I were sent off of that tribe. And then we get into this new tribe of Emily and Dresden and me and Jack, which I didn't really know what was going on in the other half of the game at that point. I didn't know about the double tribal or whatever until they had told me. So I was kind of thinking we were the misfit tribe at that point, like not in those words, but I just felt it was really, really important for us to stick together. And I remember coming back to that tribe and immediately saying that, like, I would go to rocks for them, even though I didn't even tell them my name until like that point. Like, I really hardcore set in that I didn't want, like, we were not going to flip on each other. Now we were like kind of the cast off tribe. So I feel like that was a big moment of us coming together and kind of both being united in our anger towards our previous tribes, that we weren't going to flip on each other.
Sarah, one of the funniest moments for me, it's like a very small, like unintentional thing, I think, or maybe it was intentional, but during that challenge with the fuck off tribe, Jack was directing you guys to move the blocks, and he was like laughing, and like he got fumbled up so many times, and you just see the camera pan to you and your hand, you're like, come on, hurry it up. And I think that just makes me laugh every single time I watch that.
I mean, being blindfolded, you have no idea what's going on. And I just didn't know it was taking so long. Like, I wasn't being moved at all. I was just standing there with my block. So it was, I mean, to be blindfolded, that puzzle is extremely hard. So I don't blame Jack for not knowing what to do with the puzzle. But just when you're blindfolded, you don't know what's going on. So yeah, I was frustrated by the lack of like moving me around, or like I was just standing there. So yeah, you could see my thoughts. I
highly recommend for frustrated people a blindfolded puzzle challenge with these cubes. Nobody has fun, and it takes forever, but it is really exciting at the end of the day. And Sarah, something that Emily pointed out in the chat is that you took control and established that you weren't letting a woman go. Now, good news, there's only one woman on the other side. Bad news, the 2 of them are your former Pink Tribe members. So when it comes down to voting out Kyle, like, did you use any of the intel that you had gotten from the Blue Tribe, being with Kai and Bennett, to maybe sway people towards voting for Kyle? Was there any part of that impacted you knowing you were going to vote for him?
I don't really remember anyone needing any persuading really between like Emily and Dresden and Jack. Everyone seemed really okay with going for Kyle. He was kind of the clear choice because I had told them I think we can work with Alejandro and Davey, like we work together on Blue, blah, blah, so, or on Pink. So I didn't really need any convincing. I did think that they would switch easier than they did. Obviously, I think they thought that the same as well. Like when we got to that tribal, they immediately said, like whispered to me who they were voting for, and I did the same. Like just because we were like, no, vote this way, and then I don't even know what was in the whispering. We were just trying really, really hard to convince each other to vote the way we wanted the whole time.
And in true Emily Paddock fashion, she just leans over to you and is like, by the way, I have an extra vote, which is like insane. Of course she
I know.
Like,
yeah, I totally got her not wanting to tell like anyone until the last minute. And so, yeah, I was totally fine with that. I was excited when she said that. If she had said that at the beginning, I don't know that I would have made the same decision in terms of telling the other tribe, but I think it worked out for the best. And like, I feel like you guys have talked about in other podcasts, yeah, my reason for telling them was just because I had no reason to go against them at that moment. I wasn't trying to make enemies out of them. I wasn't trying to not work with Davey and Alejandro in the future. It was just really important that Dresden stay in the game for me and like kind of how I was doing the game, and for someone that was a bigger threat and to like lose a member. So Kyle, in my mind, was a bigger threat than Dresden because there were more blues in the game, and just because of I thought how people were viewing them.
Yes. So Cooper, would you? I know you kind of said it, but like you hear about the extra vote, right? And you don't know the other side isn't. You do what Sarah does, right?
Yeah, I do. I mean, in her position, there's no reason you should be just like closing off that relationship and burning like 2 or 3 people right before the merge. Like that to me is just, that's not a smart play. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say the like desperation that I was getting off of Alejandro and Davey was not one of like, I have an idol and I'm trying to trick you. It was like, it seemed like they definitely did not have an idol. And obviously they found it like right before Alejandro picked it up, right before he was going to vote. So there was nothing in them that suggested that they had an idol.
Chris, what else we need to talk about? We hit the merge, and I think this is a very funny merge. Sarah's handing out the buffs. She knows exactly what to do. Chris, what do you want to talk about with this merge?
So something that wasn't really on camera was, I think you and Billy had like sort of a one-on-one. I guess he had apologized to you about basically casting you off your tribe. Was that sort of decision that Billy made one of your reasonings to try and target him right at the merge? Or did that sort of come later after like the group came to you with that?
That was later. That was later because now I'm trying to remember. I feel like that was later because originally it seemed like blue people might be smarter to go after first, but when that wasn't possible because like Kyle and Andrea were still working with them and whatnot, Billy was my preference of Billy and TJ. And just because I felt closer to TJ, or like maybe it was that Billy was the one who specifically casted me off, which doesn't really make any logical sense. But yeah, I don't really know what the decision was with Billy over TJ, which is why when I watched it back and I said that was my biggest move, I was like, oh, it's not a good biggest move to pick in the final tribal. But yeah, I can't really give a good answer on that. I'm not sure what preempted that. I don't really remember the conversation between me and Billy that happened afterwards. I do remember being really upset that night, and I don't know if it was specifically being cast off or if it was just felt like I was in a bad position in general, but I was pretty emotional that night. So it might have been like during that time, and I don't remember. for that.
Yeah, I don't remember
Mhm.
where I heard this or where this came from, but I definitely remember you had sort of talked about that you felt like you were losing control, actually, which is very interesting because you come into the merge with a ton of control, but you felt like you were spiraling or maybe didn't have the control that you wanted to, especially, I think, losing Dresden, not getting your way, the Alejandro and Davey not listening to you. I think I would feel the same. I would feel kind of like, what the hell am I going to do when I wake up tomorrow? So it's very interesting to see you rebound, and I think it just goes to show that you never really try to give up. Also, I think, to be fair, TJ won immunity, so that was a bye-bye Billy on that one. He was gone, which I love Billy. But that was really, I think, the nail in the coffin was TJ winning immunity and giving, no chance but Bennett or Billy.
And that's really exactly what happened. Like the night that all of that went down, like Matt went home, which I was like kind of blindsided last minute by, in terms of like Kai and Bennett told me they were willing to do that last minute, and I did not believe them. And then it did happen, but I was still like kind of shell shocked by it. And then that crazy tribal, and then it was right after that tribal that I think Davey was the one who said like, "Oh, the 7 of us should stick together." I didn't believe that was actually happening. So that night I was like, I did not know what direction the game would go in. And it took me sleeping on it and kind of getting my thoughts together. But I really did not feel in control like that night.
So, Sarah, you come up second place in a lot of these challenges. I don't know if you realize this over the course of the season. You are always like second place in the immunity challenges all the way up until the final 5. How did that feel? I feel like some people don't know that they're challenge beasts or know that they're really good at challenges until you get in the moment. And I would say you are very good at challenges. And it was really funny to watch you always kind of lose and then finally get that final 5 win. What was that like for you?
It was so frustrating. I did not like coming in second all the time. But it was good that I was doing well in them. I did, and you always wonder how you're gonna do in Survivor type challenges. And one one amazing part of Survivor New York is how cool the challenges are and how close to like how based in actual Survivor they are. So to do well in them was really exciting.
I think the one you won, like that was really cool. Like that challenge was taken, from Survivor Edge of Extinction. And I was so impressed that you killed it and you beat Kyle. But I have to say, the final 6, like ball wall challenge, your strategy was so impressive. I never thought about that, to just slam the ball all the way up. It was like so many times I tested that. That was one thing I didn't think was a possibility, to the point where like for future seasons, I basically put the rule in that they can't do that or they're automatically eliminated. So it's like you have a lasting impression. But I'm curious, and this is also for Cooper, what is your favorite challenge of the entire season?
I feel like mine is the two we've kind of mentioned. I like the blindfolding like blocks one. I thought that one was just funny. And then watching Sarah and then kind of everybody do just like destroy the thing as they like pulled it down was hilarious. Those were to me the two most memorable ones.
I really loved the one where I was called a cheater, the stacking blocks. That was the one where when I looked at it, I was like, this is a Survivor challenge. Like I'd seen it in multiple seasons, or at least one season, I don't know. But and it was just really cool to be able to do that. And then also, like the slam, I know that's not how the challenge was designed, but like seeing that was really, really cool because that's similar to Survivor as well. But I think my favorite challenge would be the one where we had to hold the things apart.
Another challenge, Sarah almost wins. Hello.
I don't know how anyone balances while looking in the air. That was just an immediate. I was done immediately after that, but that was a really cool one.
I'm worried I gave Kai the advantage with my shoes. But I think that's because she's wearing my sandals because she's got soaked during the water challenge. I mean, they're shitty Birkenstocks that are like 2 sizes too big for her. So honestly, more power to her. Well, I think that like Sarah, something that I kind of wanted to talk about is like there's this moment at like 9 and 8 where like Kyle and Davey kind of almost flip to work with Bennett and Kai, and then they don't. Did you get a sense of Kyle potentially wanting to flip, Davey potentially wanting to flip? Do you have any recollection of trying to stop that happening?
Yes, I was freaking out at Tribal. They were like talking a bunch before, and then like when we were at Tribal, there was whispering, and it was the first time at Tribal that I was not initially involved in the whispering. Like other people were whispering, and I was not around it because originally in all the previous Tribal consoles, it was like me and Davey who started the whispering because Davey was trying to flip it onto Andrea, but this Tribal, I was not involved, and so I was freaking out. And that's when you see the moment of Kyle getting up to go talk to Davey, and I like grab him so that he can't do that. But I didn't act like if he walked away, I wouldn't like jump on him. But yeah, I was definitely nervous. And there was a point when Jack asked me if I thought he should play his idol, and I said yes. So like I was nervous, and I knew that Jack's name was the one that the other side was saying. Which again, weird choice on their part for Jack.
Yeah, I was gonna say like one of the worst potential flips of the game is like, let's vote for Jack. And actually, I think Sarah, something that you benefit from is that nobody wants to ever vote you out. And it's again, I think a great we can say the social game is getting to know people, but I think a lot of it is all just that people like you so much that they don't want to vote you out, and they don't think that you're somebody that is important to, like, that's a way, like, they need you in the game, right? Davey and Alejandro think I need to have Sarah here with me, and that's like a great example of you working this social ability to say to them, you're going to keep me, and this is why. And it is really interesting that they never once think, well, if we want to target Jack, but Jack is the idol of my play on ourselves, why don't we vote out Sarah? Like, it's bananas to me. And like Kyle said Sarah had on a leash like a misbehaved child. I would say,
I love that.
Kyle, if you told me that you had a leash as a kid, I wouldn't be surprised. Cooper, what did you think of this? Like, I would say like the strategic Sarah basically like grabbing her allies by like the shirt sleeve and being like, don't go anywhere. We're voting together.
Yeah.
Have you seen that picture, Cooper?
I don't know if I've seen the picture.
Oh, I have
Is there a
it somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Yeah, there's a
I'll find it. Hang on.
I had no idea until Naomi showed me that like 2 years later. I'm like, what?
Yeah, because Sarah texted it to me and I laughed my ass off. Okay.
I got it from Kyle. Kyle had taken pictures watching the episode.
It's deep in the archives. Hang on.
But yeah, Sarah was saying like, oh, she should have said something else for her like biggest move that wasn't like Billy. I think the best part of Sarah's game was this kind of middle part where she was kind of convincing people not to flip, and that would have put their little misfit group in the minority, right? Like Davey and Alejandro and Kyle feeling comfortable in that 7 all the way till 7, I feel like had a lot to do with Sarah. And that basically gets that group of 4 to the final 4. Once they've gotten to 7, then they're just cruising to 4. So I really thought that I thought it was so obvious that they needed to kind of flip away and work with kind of those bigger threat people. And Davey was really talking about it and wanting to do it, it seemed like. But it seemed like Sarah was the one that kind of forced it in the end not to happen. And to me, that is, I mean, it's a subtle move, but it's definitely, to me, the biggest move of the game for how it ends up playing out the rest of the season.
Yes, and I think Kyle says you totally nailed it. I agree. And also, I think a very big indicator is that the people who vote for Sarah are Kai, but then Davey, Alejandro, and Kyle. Other votes for Sarah. And I think that's very indicative of what Sarah did successfully, which is keeping them feeling very comfortable and then honestly voting them out, but still keeping them not mad at you. You know what I mean? Like, Davey was like trying everything to stay in the game, and he like looks at you with that sad little like pink power, and you're like, no, and you vote him out, and like it's so funny. And it doesn't work, but that's what's interesting to me is that you were always able to vote somebody out and still sort of have them on your side. And Sarah, I'm wondering, like, what would you say now? Would you? I mean, do you agree with Cooper? What would you say is your biggest move now if you were doing Final Tribal Council over again?
Yeah, I think Cooper's right. That was definitely my biggest move. I remember, like, it was 2, if not 3 tribal councils in a row, walking a tribal, and it's not until we're in line to go or actively on our way that Davey is looking at me and he's like, "It's Andrea, it's Andrea," and I'm like, "Oh my God, here we go again." After it happened the first time, and then it was like happening again and again, and so then like I think there were comments about how many live tribals there were, and it always started with that, like, "It's Andrea" to me, and like having to. And I'm actually curious from Davey, or like, if I don't know if I could think through the votes in my head, but if I had said yes, would it be like me and Davey and then the other side? But like, I don't really know what the plan was with him saying that on the way to tribal, or like how that would have worked. But yeah, I think just like calming people down, keeping people together. I was like very, very, very aware of like how it like might look to Davey and Alejandro, and I was trying to work against that as much as I could, like especially in the superlative challenge. I don't know if Davey and Alejandro were actually paying any attention to this, but I was so scared that they were going to look at my board and see that I had put one of them for like biggest threat to win or something, and then like that would be what like made a light bulb go off, that they were going to like then flip on me. So that whole superlative challenge, I am in my head so much that I don't even answer one of the questions. I can't think of like the best answer that I should put down. So I was just putting down random names.
I love that. I remember you texted me that, and I just laughed my ass off because I was like, it's so funny to be so paranoid in the game that you're like, fuck it, I don't want to win immunity. I want to make sure I lie through the whole entirety of touchy subjects. I feel like I've never seen that before. Like, Cooper, you've done some touchy subjects. Have you ever seen someone like just straight up lie during touchy subjects to make sure they don't piss anybody off? You unmute yourself.
Tragic. It was a season me and Sarah played, the like Survivor Michigan season 1. Somebody was doing that the whole time and just basically scored like 2. Like,
that's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
I think I got 3. Like,
yeah. So you and Jack are both like down at the bottom of this challenge. I remember. Because I was like, I was updating the like text of the score, and I was like, damn, Sarah and Jack suck at this challenge.
That was the only challenge that Sarah didn't do good at, but that was her own doing. I want to ask Cooper, what did you think about Emily going up the tree and falling on Sarah?
I mean, it was hilarious. Like, it all just happened so fast. Like
yeah, you're telling us. Oh my God.
It seemed like it would have had to have been planned for her to like get up the tree that fast. But like somehow it was all just like spur of the moment, and it was just like Sarah being like, "No, get up there." Like, I don't even know. It was so funny.
Okay, background on this. It was very obvious from the clue that we were given that it was in that friggin' tree. There was nowhere else it was, which is why everyone started running there. Emily and I woke up before. I actually don't remember if it was Emily or I who woke up first, but we were up way before anyone else, and we were looking everywhere in that freaking field for the idol, and we spent at least 5 solid minutes looking in this tree already. So after knowing that clue and seeing that it was in the tree, I thought it had to be like, oh my God, they want us to climb this tree, and it has to be way up there, because we hadn't seen it. Like, we didn't know where it was. So
yes,
I thought it had to be up in the tree. And it was
that's something interesting that that Billy pointed out to us, that he didn't want to hint at it too much in his confessional or in his exit interview, but like he saw you guys and was like, that's weird that they're hanging out so much. File that away. Gets voted out immediately. But like, yeah, he noticed that you guys were hanging out and was like, I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Funny.
It was actually the tree moment watching the season back that I was like, oh my God, I was not trying to hide my relationship with Emily at all. I was confused why people didn't see it after that, why we were so close, because I did say, Emily, get on my back, and I launched her in the tree, basically, in my mind, giving her an idol and trusting her with that. So that's, in my mind, was a clear giveaway, but maybe it did just happen so fast that people weren't really paying attention. But
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. She literally fell on you, and people didn't connect that you guys were together.
I was
and
trying
you
to save her. Like, I was like, can someone bigger than me come over here? I knew I would not be able to support her weight if she came down and get the least bit wrong, which she did. And no one was around.
So Jack grabs it. What is your thought when Jack grabs it first before you or Emily
and gets it away from Kai? I think is the most important part of this. Gets it away from Kai.
Yeah, that's great that happened. Honestly, like by launching Emily in the air, I was not concerned about like me getting the one to have the idol at this point. Like my name wasn't around at all, and I wasn't really concerned about myself. But I was just confused the whole time. Like it was probably a solid hour later that someone said, "Oh no, Emily hadn't touched it yet," and Jack was the first to touch it. And I thought when Emily fell out of the tree that she had originally, I thought she had grabbed it and then dropped it on the way down. And so then Jack picked it up, and I was just confused about like how everything went down. So I didn't see it as Jack stealing it from Emily at that time. And then when I figured that out, I was like, ooh. But I didn't really care. They were both my allies, so it was fine. As long as that would have really messed up the game if I got it. So.
I remember this story now. I remember this. Night Zero Kyle says, Sarah and Emily told me they both played Survivor Michigan but didn't know each other because it was different seasons, and I believed them. Now, to be fair, I would say Michigan, pretty big campus, right, Cooper? Like, a lot of people play the game and don't know each other.
Yes, but like that's just not how college works, and not how like I feel like it's probably the same for you guys, where people between the two seasons kind of at least know each other somewhat. Like it would be hard to like, unless you were really removed from the community, to like not know this person at all. And like I feel like especially even more so on a college campus, you like to not know somebody else at all is like not believable.
So funny. I mean, and that's what I love about this game is that like we literally set it up as like veterans versus contenders, right? We tell everybody these people have played games because we want people to be in their brains getting paranoid about like who knows who and where does everybody's relationships come into play. And for some fucking reason, nobody gives a shit about the two girls that went to Michigan and played Survivor Michigan. It is so funny. Sarah, I want to talk. Oh, go ahead.
Well, before we move on real quick, to be fair, I did tell people that I was voted off first, and I did tell people that I was a senior and already graduated by the time Emily had played the game. So it's pretty believable that we wouldn't know each other. We actually only knew each other because of Survivor Buffalo seasons 1 and 2. So it was outside of Michigan that we knew each other.
And so what I was going to say is, Sarah, Claire's on Big Brother right now, and you had to relive OTEV, which is not one of your finer moments. Well, not like you did bad, but like you and Andrea running around. I cut so much time out of you and Andrea running around looking for one fucking block. It was I kind of crazy. I just love how like you're just like, I don't know what's going on. And then Emily finds an idol in this OTEV. And also, I would say this is a really important round where, like, Alejandro and Davey can't win because you're going to vote one of them out. Can you talk to me about, like, reaching the final 7, playing OTEV, and, like, what you were thinking about when it came to, like, voting one of the big threats out?
Yes. So, first of all, OTEV, it made it look like in the edit that we knew what block we were going for. I didn't fucking know like 3 of the answers. So I was not only not finding the block, but I was having to go up to like Jack or Emily or someone and be like, what's the answer? And then they would tell me. And then I would have to go find the block. So I was really my brain was a scramble. I did not know some of the answers. And yeah, it took me a long time and it was not my prouder moment. But who won that? Emily won that challenge.
Emily wins that challenge.
Okay, yeah. And at this point it's 7. And I think the four of us had pretty much already decided that Alejandro would be the best person to go first out of the 7. So it was pretty straightforward from there. And it was actually like there was really not much discussion each vote that even I don't know how early I want to say, but maybe like final 9 on. It was like there was not that much discussion between like the 4 of us. It was more like convincing other people. So I think I said at the camera, like at like final 8, maybe, or final 7, that I was so shocked that the game was going so perfectly for me, because like there was this plan laid out that really had no hiccups. Like it was shocking that I didn't have any backup plan. Like if this went wrong, I didn't have a chance to win. And like no one won immunity, like, or like an idol, like when they needed to, in terms of that it would ruin the plan. So it really just went really well, and I had no backup, so that was good.
Yes. And Cooper, I guess we see it work out very well for Sarah, but is there anything you would have changed from like this? Like, really, I'd say all of these merge votes made sense to me. I don't know if they made sense to you, but like, you know, the order like Billy, TJ, Bennett, Kai, and then Alejandro, Davey, Kyle. I don't think you really need to change that boot order at all. I'm curious, like, you know, as an outsider watching all of their games and sort of seeing everything, do you agree with that boot order, or would you have maybe picked somebody else over someone else? What do you think of that?
No, I thought it was totally fine. It was like, it was the classic, like, you're sitting at the merge and you're like, all right, if everything goes absolutely according to plan, we pick off the other side, then we pick off these 3, and then we're the final 4. And it's like there's always the plan, but then there's always like something else that like goes wrong or like happens. And like Sarah said, it was just like nothing went wrong. Like they were able to keep everyone calm and like make sure that they all thought they had like other things going on. So I was kind of like, something always goes wrong in Survivor, and it just like didn't this season. Like they laid out a plan and it was like it happened. So in terms of like switching people around, they honestly could have, like, they could have done Davey, Alejandro, like Kyle, whatever. They could have flipped and flopped whoever they wanted to, and it wouldn't have really made a difference in the end. But no, I mean, they had a plan and they executed it. So I mean, yeah.
And Sarah, again, I think it's a great testament to your game, because like there's a reason that everybody wanted you guys to like both win, is because you had so much control that you knew what you wanted to happen from like final 9 on, right? You know, you like, I got this all mapped out. Here's my brilliant plan. And then nobody ever figures out, like, it's so funny to me the way that like people roll over and die once they realize that it's going to be them being voted out. And they always come to you and they're always like, Sarah, do you want to vote on Andrea? And I was like, no. It's so funny to me. Watching it back, Sarah, did you have any, like, I don't know if watching it back for you was any sort of realization process. Some people get to see things they never saw, but I feel like you kind of knew what was going on the whole time. Was there anything that maybe was a newfound thing for you watching the season back?
Yeah, I didn't know how long Davey had been talking about switching, and I didn't know about Dave. I mean, I knew before I watched it back, but I didn't know that Davey and Bennett's relationship was happening during the game. So it was really fun to kind of watch that back and like understand why they were yelling at each other so intensely that one moment. Yeah, it was really fun to watch back. I feel like I didn't know, I should have like written them down, but there were a lot of moments that I didn't know that was going on. I feel like mostly about how close Davey was and how he was actually advocating to switch, and Alejandro was more convincing him not to, because I thought they maybe weren't as close as they were to switching, and that maybe Kyle was the one advocating to switch versus Davey.
Right.
But yeah. I also I feel like we were so lucky in terms of Emily being the one to find everything. Like if she had not found everything, it really would have messed the plan up if other people had found those things. But
yeah, underreported on moment is when Emily finds the idol in OTEV and Davey just immediately goes, she has it. Like he's not letting her get away with a single goddamn thing. He's like, she found the idol. Like he does not. And it's a really funny move. And Sarah, I'm sure you were probably shocked when, you know, Emily just comes back and she's got a freaking idol in her pocket.
Yeah, I looked everywhere in that playground. Like, why did I not find it?
Oh man, Chris,
Sarah,
what
I have a
else?
question.
Yeah.
So I think this was discussed on a different podcast. Kyle wins the final six immunity, which we're not sure. I mean, I'm not still sure. Like, did he need this immunity? So if you had won, because you had created that strategy, which ended up being the winning strategy for Kyle. If you had won, do you think that Kyle would have left at the final six versus Davy, or do you think Davy was going to leave no matter what?
I think Davy leaves. Davy was the plan. So I think Davy would have left unless he like convinced us to not do Davy and to do Kyle first. He's very persuasive. But I think, yeah, it would have been Davy and he would have thought it was Kyle. So maybe it would have been a little bit easier. But yeah, I think it would have been Davy anyways.
Mm-hmm. And so Sarah, I guess the question is, if you want to do something differently, I mean, it's so tricky, right? Like, it's not like you made one move that goes awry. I guess you can say, vote out Emily instead of not voting out Emily. But when you look back on the game, are you pleased with how it goes? Do you think about like, oh, I wish I changed this up, or are you for the most part like, look, whatever happened, it's fine. It's Big Survivor. There's literally no prize money. It's fine.
I think I asked you right before I voted. Do you remember that, Naomi? Like right before I went to vote at Final Four, I whispered to you to ask if there was prize money. And you were like, no. And I was like, well.
I think I remember.
That definitely happened. But as far as things I would change, I do, like, when I was watching the show back, I do feel like there wasn't really a reason to lie to Davy during the Davy vote. And like looking back, I was like, oh, I could have just told Davy that it was him rather than being like, oh, why not Kyle? I also realized that when I'm lying to people, I don't answer their question. I just ask a question back. So that's good to know. I did it like so many times during the season where Davey was like, are you voting for me tonight? I was like, why not Kyle? Like I didn't say no, but I feel like when you can tell the people the truth, like that's probably better. So I had some moments like that, but overall, no, I was pretty happy with how I played. And I did, like, after Emily was in the final three and I was like rehearsing like whatever I thought I was going to say at the time, I did still think I had a good chance and I really did want to win. Like it was still very important to me. It was just also important to not vote out Emily. So but yeah, it was nice to know. Honestly, I feel like it helps to know that there was a path that I could have won, rather than like I feel like some people might not want to like, oh, if I just made this move, then I would have won. But I feel like it kind of helps.
Right. I agree. I think like when you know that there's a moment where things could have changed and like things would have been different, it's fine to be like, well, that was the moment and the thing didn't happen. I mean, Chris or Cooper, do you disagree? I feel like I'm on your side, Sarah. I'm like, yeah, you find out what you could have done wrong and you just move on from it. Rather than knowing that, I feel like it's almost worse sometimes to be in the Jack spot where it's like, there's not a lot you could have done to convince somebody to give you a vote.
And I also want to say, I keep saying would have won. I obviously do not know that I would have won in a different final three yet. I'm just basing that on perceptions of the jury and what I think might have happened. But honestly, I'm glad everyone in the past podcast has been saying that they respect Andrea's game more now, because I was thinking that during the game, like to survive that many tribals where your name is brought up is a really big feat. So
I don't want to like hurt your feelings, but like I remember talking to each jury member right after the vote, and I had said to them like, "Oh, if it was Jack, Sarah, and Andrea, like who would you guys have voted for?" And I feel like at that time I remember them all saying they would have voted for you. So like if that makes you feel any better, I think it should. Like you said, like there was a path for you to get there, and like I said, if once Davey was out, it was your game. to win. And I'm always a huge fan of yours, and I'm sure Cooper is as well. Naomi, we all love you, and we root for you every single time that we see you play these things. And I can't wait to see what's next for you, honestly.
Thanks, Chris. That means a lot. I feel like I've had a lot of ups and downs during like all the different games that I've played, so it's always nice to hear.
But isn't it like you have your trajectory like pretty much like going only better every single time you play?
Up through Survivor New York, yes, that was true.
Yeah.
Not after. But yeah, it's actually crazy how many, like, I'm just so grateful to have been able to, like, I know a lot of people wish they could play more games and don't have to, I like being a grad student, had so much time and availability and like freedom to go play all these games, which is so amazing. I feel so lucky that I was
Do you
able
ever see yourself applying for the real show or like a different reality show or something like that?
Yes, after, I'm not gonna lie, after Survivor Pennsylvania, which was, I don't know, Cooper and Naomi, if you know about the game, but it was 4/5 days outside with fucking nothing. Just put outside. We had a tarp. That was it. We boiled rice and picked dead spiders out of the water of the rice. Like, it was so horrific. And after that game, I was like, I'm never fucking doing Survivor. I would not last. And then I was a week removed, and then I was immediately like, yeah, I want to apply at some point. So it's on the agenda. When I was growing up, I said I would apply every year from when I turned 18, and I haven't applied yet. So that's, not
It
proud.
sounds like you have a lot of applications to make up.
Yeah, got a lot to make up for.
Mm-hmm. Cooper, I'm just wondering if you have any other final thoughts on the season. Like, I mean, first, thank you for joining us, but also, like, thank you for watching, because I felt like we kind of, like, pilfered two great players from your game, and, like, but I was always so excited to share their success, because I think for, like, Sarah and also Emily Paddock, to an extent, I think their personalities were not fully shown on Survivor Michigan in whatever way, whether it's, like, the Alliance overshadowing them or just Sarah not being on the episodes a lot. And I was always really glad that the reception from the Survivor Michigan fans was so positive to both of these people. But Cooper, anything from you that we still need to talk about?
I don't think so. I think it was great that the two of them got to go so far and got first and second in this game. I think they're both, I mean, I think you can see them on Survivor Michigan and both see that they're very good players with even more potential than they did on their seasons there. So I think seeing them in these other kind of shorter, like, live reality games has been amazing, not only for Survivor Michigan, but probably for them as well, just to be like, okay, I am a better player than I placed on their original season. And I think they both probably knew that, but I think proving that on multiple different seasons, is just kudos to both of them for going out and doing that and showing what they're capable of doing on little Survivor games like these. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Sarah, first of all, I was so glad I got to see you during that live, but I'm such a fan of yours, and one of the hardest votes I ever had to do was to vote you out of Survivor Buffalo. I fucking hated every second of it.
Wait, yeah, both of you guys have voted me out of games. Everyone but Chris.
Chris, you're just on the list.
Can I tell you that it would be like almost like, I've said this so many times, like if I ever played a game with Naomi or with Sarah or Paddock, I couldn't vote for them. Like I would have to be like forced to do it. It wouldn't be something I could do. And if I lost the game, I would be okay with that.
Yeah, and technically, Sarah, I was forced to vote for you in a horrible circumstance where we had an idle nullifier and someone else had immunity. But I will say that, Sarah, you're also very funny on that season. And like, it's like, I have a great time hanging out with you. And Sarah, I'm sorry that Claire's going to get voted out of Big Brother this week.
So sad.
So sad.
Oh,
so sad.
It breaks my heart.
Yeah, honestly. It's really tough. This is a tough way for her to go. But ultimately, I feel like it'll be okay. And she'll be okay. She would have felt betrayed and heartbroken at a later day anyways. So at least she heard it from the source somewhat.
Right.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. Sarah, anything else? Anything else in the mind?
I do want to say something about Night Zero that I think is really funny because Kyle reminded me of Night Zero. I remember two things about that night. And one was that we were all really hungry for some reason. I don't know why. Like, none of us had eaten, whatever. And so I had like packed up a nice New York bagel with this vegan tofu cream cheese that is nowhere else in the world. The New York bagel, yes, especially this vegan tofu cream cheese is so good, and they don't have it anywhere else. And so I went to my bar and I got this bagel and I sat back down. I started eating it. And I think it was Alejandro was sitting next to me, and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm so hungry." And so, of course, I'm like, "Oh, do you like want a bite of this bagel?" And I totally expected him to say no. But he said yes. And then everyone wanted a bite of the bagel, and my bagel got passed around, and so many people took a bite. And the bagel was gone, and I was so sad about it.
That's hilarious.
And so I was like, dang, these people ate my bagel and I'm hungry.
I'm gonna vote their asses out.
I'm glad we did have some vegan options for you during the game.
Yes.
I'm happy we did have that.
You did have that. It was not a starvation situation at all. We were just hungry, waiting. I think it was waiting for the dinner that you had served. So we were not being starved. We were just regular hungry.
Shocker, this cast is being drama queens.
Sarah, you have to give me your address because I want to send you these. I still have them.
Oh my God, my vote?
All your votes to win. I still have them. I've kept them in the voting urn until season 5.
Wow.
Even that one. So if you want them,
what does that one say?
I think that was Alejandro. He said like "Way to go, girl."
Oh, okay. Oh.
Tiniest little scribbles on the vote.
Okay, I'll send you my address. Thank you.
Yeah,
don't say it out loud. Cooper, thank you for joining us. So nice to catch up. Sarah, I'll get you some vegan tofu cream cheese. I'll find some next time.
Oh my God.
Listen, if my COVID goes away in time, I'll be in New York soon, so I can get some.
Soon. And I just want to say that you can vote for fan favorite and a bunch of other things for Survivor New York Season 4 if you go to SNY4 fan vote. tinyurl.com/SNY4fanvote. Or it's on our viewer group, which you should check out. But you can vote for Sarah or whoever you want to be your fan favorite, and you can vote for the most entertaining player of the season, the best strategic player of the season, your favorite immunity challenge. We love to hear your feedback on the season, so please do that. And most importantly, just subscribe to Survivor New York. We just put out a teaser for season 5, and the season 5 cast is living for it. So I hope you will stay tuned for that. Thank you for tuning into Live Reality Games, and have